Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're tackling a stack of source material that, on the surface, feels like a real study in contrast.
Yeah, huge contrast.
We have this massive historical account of a national crisis, religious war, and then right next to it, this incredibly intimate, personal story of a miracle.
It's a fascinating combination, and our deep dive today is really about getting past just summarizing these texts. We're talking more Maccabees, Psalm 119, and a story from Luke. We want to find the connective tissue.
Right.
I mean, these texts are separated by centuries, but they all seem to be asking the same fundamental question, which is, when the world goes completely dark, how do you find the light? And maybe more importantly, how do you get your vision back or gain it in the first place?
We're looking at the mechanics of surviving extreme pressure, whether that's pressure from a foreign army trying to, literally erase your culture.
Oh, the pressure from your own body, your own limitations, and just the indifference of the crowd around you.
And what seems to tie it all together is this theme of unwavering persistence, especially when the world is demanding that you just be silent. Okay, so let's start with that big canvas, the historical darkness laid out in 1 Maccabees. This details one of the most brutal periods of forced assimilation you can imagine. The story really kicks off with the reign of Antiochus Epiphanes.
Son of King Antiochus, yeah. He comes onto the scene around 175 BC.
And he was intent on creating this unified Hellenistic empire.
He was, and that meant getting rid of any distinct identities. But what's so critical here, and something the sources really highlight, is that the crisis didn't just start with the external enemy.
Right. That's a detail that often gets glossed over.
It does. The problem started internally. With a failure of commitment.
The sources talk about men who were breakers of the law showing up.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who go looking for an alliance with the Gentiles first.
Yeah, they're making the argument that, all this separation, it's actually led to many evils.
Think about the psychology of that for a second. Before the king even forces the issue,
some people inside the community are already saying that their identity, their covenant, is too hard, too restrictive.
They were willing to trade it for comfort, for blending in with the majority culture.
Exactly. And once those internal cracks appear, well, the king found it very easy to just push the whole thing forward.
And the sources document this systematic destruction, building a gymnasium in Jerusalem, which was a center of Greek culture.
Making efforts to literally cover the marks of circumcision, sacrificing to idols, profaning the Sabbath.
The goal was to make everyone one people.
And the shift from sort of voluntary assimilation to enforced persecution, it escalates into pure terror.
Which brings us to the climax of it all.
The horrible abomination.
Erected right on the sacred altar of burnt offerings. I mean, that's the ultimate statement, isn't it? The spiritual center of their world had been completely corrupted.
And the decrees that followed were just barbaric. If agents of the king found scrolls of the law,
they tore them up, burned them.
And just observing the covenant, the Sabbath, that was a death sentence. This was a war on the very idea of faithfulness.
It was a time of terrible affliction, as the text says, no doubt.
But the core takeaway here isn't just the violence, it's the response of those who held on. We hear about the many who resolved in their hearts not to eat anything unclean.
They chose to die rather than be defiled.
They refused to let go of their vision of who they were. That's the key.
So when your whole physical world is collapsing, when your sacred texts are being burned, where do you turn?
Right.
And this brings us to section 2. The spiritual response we find in Psalm 119. They're countering the physical darkness with this unwavering commitment to the divine word itself.
Yes. And if the king's decree is designed to throw you completely off course, the psalm provides this immediate reorientation.
This is where we'll get that powerful metaphor.
Yeah.
Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path.
Exactly. When the literal world around you is hostile, that spiritual guide has to become your only light source.
And if you read the verses from that psalm with the Maccabean struggle in mind, it stops sounding like, abstract poetry.
It starts sounding like a defiant political manifesto.
Totally.
The psalm talks about this profound indignation toward the wicked who are forsaking the law. Well, that speaks directly to those internal breakers of the law we just talked about.
And there's this immediate recognition of the danger. The snares of the wicked are twined about me.
But look at the declaration that follows that. It's what matters. Your law I have not forgotten.
Even surrounded by oppression, their mental and spiritual focus is just fixed fixed on the law.
That mental resilience is everything. They're pleading, redeem me from the oppression of men, because they see the enemy as both political and spiritual.
They see the persecutors and the apostates not with pity, but with a kind of moral disgust.
A deep one, because those people actively chose to reject the light. So the law, for them, it provided the blueprint for resistance, sure, but also for endurance. It gave them the vision to see a future beyond all the present darkness.
Okay, so let's take that powerful blueprint for collective resistance and shift gears completely.
Big shift, yeah.
We're moving from this macro historical struggle, a nation fighting an empire, to a tiny micro-personal event near Jericho.
Featuring one solitary, nameless individual.
The blind man sitting by the roadside begging.
The contrast is so striking, but the emotional logic is, well, it's identical. Here's a man in profound personal darkness, not just physical blindness, but social isolation.
He's dependent. He's just sitting there quietly until he hears this commotion.
And he asks what the noise is. Someone tells him Jesus of Nazareth is passing by.
And what happens next is this demonstration of tenacity that, honestly, it mirrors the Maccabean martyrs refusing to eat unclean food. It's an act of radical commitment.
It is. He doesn't wait to be invited. He doesn't whisper. He just unleashes this loud, specific shout that shows he gets it. He understands who he's talking to.
Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me.
He knows exactly who he's calling out to.
But notice the world's response. The people in front, the sort of established order of the crowd.
They rebuked him, telling him to be silent.
They're essentially telling him, you're disrupting things, you're not important enough to speak up right now.
And this is the parallel to persecution, isn't it? The world, whether it's a massive empire or just a passing crowd, it demands silence. It demands conformity.
It tells the suffering and the faithful to just be quiet. Don't cause a scene. Accept your fate.
So what do you do when the crowd tells you to be silent?
The source is crystal clear. He kept calling out all the more.
He increases the pressure. That audacity, that refusal to be quieted, is what separates him from everyone else there.
And then that persistence. That's the active ingredient of his faith. So Jesus stops.
Of course. And he asks the most direct question possible. What do you want me to do for you?
And the request is so simple. Lord, please let me see.
The resulting miracle is then immediately tied to his active choice, his decision to be loud and persistent.
Right. The text makes it clear. It was the man's faith that unlocked the healing. Have sight. Your faith has saved you.
And his immediate response isn't just, oh, thank you. It's action. He followed Jesus, giving glory to God. His new vision immediately gave him a new path.
And the same crowd that tried to shut him up.
Now they're all joining him in praise.
Okay. Let's bring these pieces together. This is where the deep dive really pays off. We have this national movement of people ready to die rather than compromise their spiritual vision. And we have a single blind man ready to risk public humiliation just to get his physical sight back.
So why do these two fights look so similar?
Why does the fight to save a nation look exactly like the fight to save one person's eyesight?
Because the sources are revealing this profound uniformity in how true faith works. I think the core insight is that persistence is the proof of vision.
Say more about that.
If you truly believe the law is your light, or you truly believe Jesus is the Son of David, you actually can't be silenced. It's not an option.
So the size of the crisis is irrelevant. The level of commitment required is absolute, whether you're fighting Antiochus or just the crowd trying to shut you down.
The strategy is the same. You refuse the world's demand for your silence.
And the source reflection really nails this. It notes that the blind man's loud cry, calling out when the world tried to quiet him, it's a mirror of the faith of those Maccabees who were willing to die.
Both were facing a crisis of vision. Spiritual vision for the nation, physical vision for the individual.
And both found their way to the light. We can even connect this back to that Alleluia verse we saw. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will have the light of life.
The law was the lamp for the nation. Christ is the ultimate light for the individual. The power here is recognizing that gaining vision is not a passive thing.
It required the faithful in Maccabees to defy a royal decree, knowing it could cost them their lives.
And it required the blind man to defy the social decree of the crowd, knowing it could just lead to more humiliation.
It sounds like the process of gaining light always involves some kind of initial, audible act of rebellion against your circumstances.
I think that's the blueprint.
You have to actively reject the darkness that you're in.
That's it. The biggest takeaway is that encountering the ultimate source of vision, whether that's through the law or through Christ, It demands this radical shift. You have to move from being passive to being an active follower. It's impossible to gain true vision and just keep walking in the old, dark way.
So these texts aren't just inviting us to see.
They're inviting us to follow with renewed faith and with action.
This has been a really powerful look at how a crisis of national identity and a crisis of personal health can actually demand the exact same response.
Bold, unwavering, audible trust.
A trust that just refuses to be quieted. The light is there, but you have to fight the voices, internal and external, that tell you to just accept the darkness.
And that fight against enforced silence is what we want you to carry forward from this. We've taken this deep dive into what it means to gain a new vision.
So the final thought for you to take away is this.
If achieving sight means being bold and persistent, even when the world tells you to conform, what simple, maybe even defiant act of faith can you offer today that proves you are walking with that new light?